power that underlies all life, which, as Lao Tse says, for lack of a better word, I'll call it the Tao. And the Tao, that's a good thing, because you can't do much with a word that you cannot exactly see what it means. The same way that Buddha used the word emptiness. You cannot worship emptiness. It's a negative term. It negates form. So it's always been the tendency for humans to worship concepts. The concept of God arises in your mind, and then you start talking about God. The concept of God becomes an idol, because it's no more than a thought. So you can't do that with the Tao, because you can't picture it. You can't form an image of it. In the same way that you can't form a picture or an image of emptiness. So that is the transcendental reality that the book points to, and it shows us the way to it. So there's great power there. And the book came to me for the first time in my 20s, maybe mid-20s. Somebody said, have a look at this is interesting. And I looked at it, and something drew me into it, but then I couldn't quite, it was so obscure that I knew there was something hiding there in the book. There was some truth hiding, but I couldn't get it. It was there. And then I put it aside, and okay, I have other things to do now. And then years passed, and then in my early 30s, I rediscovered the book in a different translation. There are many translations available. And not only was the translation better, something had by then taken place within me, an awakening, a shift in consciousness. And through that new consciousness, I looked at the book and I said, wow, I know what he's talking about. I realized the depth and the profundity of what those words were saying. And since then, the book in different versions, not the actual physical book, but the Tao Te Ching has never left me. It's always been with me in one way, one form or another. So that's the story behind the Tao Te Ching. And now let's see if we can go a little deeper into it. We are going to use, there are two translations that at the moment are my favorites. We will use Stephen Mitchell's translation, fairly recent, Tao Te Ching. Another translation that I've had for a number of years that I'm very fond of is by Jia Fu Feng and Jane English. They together translated the Tao Te Ching, and that's another beautiful translation. I will be using mainly for today Stephen Mitchell's translation or version of it. And the first two lines of the Tao Te Ching are very famous. I've quoted it quite a few times. But even there, sometimes translations differ. The first two lines are, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. What he's saying is, you cannot really speak about the ultimate reality. And whatever you say about it is not it. However, he then continues to talk about it. So how is that? Well, he's telling you not to attach yourself to the words, not to begin to believe in the words or in concepts, not to make it into some new belief. The truth is not in the words. That's what he's saying. The truth, the words only point to the truth. And the truth is only to be found within you, beyond the realm of mind or of thinking or of concepts. So that's just a little, very important, those first two lines. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. Okay, and now let me tell you about it. Because the Tao is in you, and the only place where you can discover it is in you. And so the book shows the way to discover who you are beyond who you thought you are, beyond whatever your mind is telling you who you are. And now, the closest he comes to defining the Tao, which cannot be defined, I'm just saying the closest he comes to defining it is in these little lines, which I'll read to you now. And again, you need to listen to that, not just with your head, but you need to listen to that with your belly or your entire being, those words, because you cannot understand them just through the mind. If they are meaningful, or if you can sense the power that is in the words, then you are sensing your own power beyond thought activity. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao. Note that he begins by saying there was something formless and perfect before the universe was born, before the arising of form, before the Big Bang, you could say. He uses the past tense. In the next line he says, it is serene, empty, solitary. It is not only that which was there before the world came into being, it is that which continues to be there timelessly at the core of your being. That which was there before the Big Bang is still present in you, the unmanifested one life, one consciousness, without which you are nothing. It is the essence of who you are. And of course, if you say that to a normal materialist, scientist, whatever, I'm saying a normal scientist, not a great scientist, then he will say, what is this nonsense? Or if you tell it to somebody who is totally close to you, they'll say, this is mumbo jumbo. There was something before the universe was born, and there's something. What are you talking about? And now listen, he very wisely, Stephen Mitchell, put in a little quote by one of the great scientists, Albert Einstein, what he had to say about it. Somebody who did a lot of thinking, but whose thinking was rooted in the stillness, which, as we shall see, is an essential part of the teaching of the Tao. His thinking was rooted in the Tao, in the stillness beyond the noisy mind. That's where Einstein's realizations came from. And so he was not just trapped in his noisy mind like most scientists and then deny the reality of the transcendental, but he was connected with it. And he said, I'm not used to quoting from books in talks. Here's Einstein talking. The scientist's religious feeling takes the form of a rapturous amazement at the harmony of natural law, which reveals an intelligence of such superiority that, in comparison with it, all systematic thinking of human beings is an utterly insignificant reflection. This feeling is the guiding principle of my life and work. The recognition of a vast intelligence that underlies all of creation. Instead of saying, what, something more intelligent than me? That can't be, that's mumbo jumbo. But something that I can't understand, I can't categorize, what mumbo jumbo is that? This is what the Tao Te Ching calls standing on tiptoe, and you're not stable. It's in the flower. It creates that. It's in you. It pervades the very space around us. It comes through the human brain, the brain is like gives it some form. And when the brain goes, it no longer goes through that form. It's the very consciousness that you are. So this shows that Einstein was in touch with that dimension. That's why his thinking was inspired. That's why he had sudden revelations. Now we come to the first, slightly longer, just a few lines, never more than a few lines at a time. How to live, to be in touch with that. I read this little section first, and then we'll look at the lines and go into it. Not with the intellectual mind, but sensing our way into it. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectation, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. For virtue, substitute power. The power moves through you. If you live in that way, you become it. You realize your oneness with it. Back to the beginning. Can you coax your mind from its wandering? It wanders about. If you look at your own mind, that's what it does. It goes one thing to another, one thought leads to another thought, and goes on and on. Sometimes I call it the voice in the head. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? In other words, is it possible for you to sit still for a moment and don't give attention to every thought that says, follow me, I'll show you the way. That's what every thought says, I'm important, think about this, think about this. Okay, and once you follow up one thought, and then it becomes another one, and another stream, then you get, that's how most people live, continuously immersed in just chatter, mental chatter, streams of thinking. It's even become literature in the 20th century. It's called the stream of consciousness, James Joyce. You get 30 pages without any punctuation marks. Just he wrote down how he observed his own mind, and he wrote